So
Yeah,
how are you ladies doing that? Because I will tell you, that really resonates with me, Pinkie. I will find myself many days where I'm doing that, working sort of those longer hours than is probably healthy. What tips do you have? How are you ladies managing to take care of yourself when there's so many others to take care of?
Well, I think one of the things that I learned even when I was in the office, and I still do it now, is you've got to block the time and you've got to own it and you've got to keep it, right? And I think as a working mom that's also an executive, to Pinkie's, it's my responsibility to model it so that others know it's okay. I worked for a Fortune 100 company back in '08, and we had a female executive that at the time, because things were going so crazy, took only 4 weeks of maternity leave, right? And I was pregnant at that point, and I was like, oh my gosh, I now need to make my maternity leave super fast, right? And I remember that earlier in my career. And so I very much believe in, I've got to model the behavior. So if I'm running late because I have to do something for my boys, I actually say that, right? I say to folks, you know what? I need 5 extra minutes because I've got to get the boys settled in before their next activity. I do the same thing Tamika does. I'm like, you know, you hear the baby in the background. Let me see that sweet little face. Make sure sweetie sits on mommy's lap or daddy's lap. We want to see them, right? So whatever we can do to let people know it's okay, because I do think at this point in our careers, we know where our boundaries are. And again, self-care is a big piece, right? That's the one thing that we tend to let go of. But the way that I keep coming back to it is, if I don't, then I'm not doing my job for everybody else. And so it's a little less selfish because, you know, I'm never good when it comes to something for myself. But if I know that I'm doing it for the good of the organization, then it's my job to do it. And so that's what I remember. I'm not just doing it to keep myself well, which should be reason enough, let's face it, but I'm also doing it so that all the people that work with me and all of my peers see what we should be doing right now.
Love that.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's interesting. Our chairwoman, Janet Foudy, always uses the example on the airplane where they say, put your mask on first before you help others. And that's precisely it. We are no good to anyone else if we aren't taking care of ourselves. And, you know, at Deloitte, we've been really clear around wellness and the importance of it. We even have a chief wellness officer, Jen Fisher, who spends now countless hours. I bet she's probably not, you know, doing all the wellness things, just making sure we're taking care of ourselves. But she is a great example of sort of making sure that those things are happening. She has sent out many ways in which we can, you know, do better and take care of ourselves. And I think that makes a huge difference. But as a female executive, I will tell you that the lines are always fuzzy, right? We know that we have to find time to work out. We know that we have to find time to be with our children if we have children. We know we have to find time to be with a spouse if we have a spouse. So everything sort of runs together, and our people. And so one of the things that I've done this morning, actually, I had yoga with one of my partners in Brazil and one of my partners here in Washington virtually. And then we had coffee chat right afterwards. And so while that was a wellness thing for me, it also, one, it modeled the behavior, Traci, to your point. 2, it blended my ability to connect with them and then still get something in that was meaningful to me before the workday started. And so I think to some extent we have all found that we have to sort of blend things like that to make everything work, but it is absolutely critical that we take care of ourselves first, and leading by example is absolutely the best way to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Carolyn?
I think much like Traci, you know, I've got kids who are, your kids are probably a little younger than mine, but I've got 10 and almost 14, and they have been remote for over a week now. And that has been somewhat stressful for me because, you know, while my 14-year-old is really, really great about getting her work done, it's because of all of what I've said to her all these years that, you know, it's finally manifesting itself. But, you know, but she's just the right age to do that. My 10-year-old, on the other hand, he needs some support. And, you know, my husband is home as well. And, you know, when people hear me speak, the thing that they say, that I often say is that, you know, there's 3 components to me. There is, you know, the professional, and when the professional, the wife, and the mother. And when I'm being a great professional, often I'm not the best wife and mother. When I'm being a great mother, I'm often not being the best professional and wife. And most days I suck at being a wife. And so I am really clear. Well, it's true. But I'm just so fortunate that I got, you know, somebody who really loves me, and he doesn't feel that way. And when he does feel that way, he's smart enough not to say anything about it. But I do think that, you know, I have really been challenged with trying to be patient with them, help them while I'm helping, you know, right before I get on another call. And, you know, unfortunately, I have to schedule out time to be with our kids. The one self-care item in that, though, that's come out of it is that I am making a commitment for us to sit down as a family at night and have dinner. So all four of us are at the table talking about our day. And while that sounds like something really, really simple, and all the time that I've had my children, there's never been 10 consistent nights where we've had dinner together, not ever. And so, you know, I'm cooking more. Good, bad, and different. You know, I'm cooking more. We don't have, you know, help coming in because, you know, everybody is, you know, self-quarantining, if you will. And I do feel like it's really just kind of forced us as a family to come up with a family rhythm. And I've just also seen my husband too really step into the plate, trying to say, hey, okay, what's your day like? Where are your calls? And, you know, trying to tag team the two. And so while I'm not doing the best about self-care, I am doing much better around family care. And that's helping me to feel better about self.
That's great. I love that. Carolyn?
It's a tough one. I think as a female leader, you know, you're going to put everybody else's needs ahead of yourself. And I think it's always we're more victims of it's our cup of coffee and it's time for lunch and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and we haven't gotten up from the desk. But one of the things that I have tried to do during this pandemic is encourage outreach amongst my friends. So I will schedule 5 or 10 minutes over different periods of the course of the day to touch base with my to my friends or, you know, family members, just a quick 5 to 10 minutes. And I find that gives me a lot of boost and also makes me feel more comfortable about everything that's happening at work. And as busy as we are, to be able to schedule some time slots out. My kids are out of the house. I have, one in college and, one who's graduated and living in a separate apartment. And right now, both of them are in different places. And so to talk to them a couple of times during the day gives me great relief and makes me feel happier and healthier. And then the other thing is we're doing the same thing, is sitting down for a meal, like just turn off the devices, even if it's 20 minutes, and gather around the table. If nothing else, just to take a beat and a breath to, feel yourself and your family and the loved ones that are in the house, so you can kind of have a feeling of come together. Because even though everybody's under one roof, it's very easy with you're on this calls and you've got this going on. It almost can feel more fragmented, than any other time as you're trying to blend. At your perspective, taking a little bit of first thing in the morning and a little bit of time at night with no devices and a book or a poem or a meditation can really help kind of level things off. And I find puts me in a good place. And the most important thing people can do, I think, is get good sleep. I think, everyone has so much anxiety and it's so easy to get everything done and then go to bed and get up early and be tossing and turning. So I find that anything I can do to transition so I can get 6 or 7 hours of really solid sleep is the fuel that I need to help, get me through the day. And I think, people are nervous and stressed, and getting rest and recharging yourself at times like that is more difficult than others when you have to make an effort at it. But I think the payoff is really good.
Yeah, great suggestions, ladies. Thank you so much for doing this. I've learned a lot. I've picked up a couple of tips. It's funny, it's just my husband and my 5-pound dog. And I feel like I've got my hands full. So I can't even imagine those of you that are also juggling children and other pieces.